Perfect. Good morning to everyone. My name is Robert Durazo. I'm the Director for Business Development at IVEMSA. And today we are going to share with you guys what we have been seeing when we have discussions with companies that are looking to nearshore and set up manufacturing to Mexico. We are going to be reviewing all your questions at the end of the presentation as well. But mainly, we're going to be sharing what companies are looking into Mexico, are the main reasons for that, why Mexico, where in Mexico it's a good location for setting up operations. We're as well are going to review the different options that you have to set up a presence in Mexico. We're going to review the shelter model, the advantages, how does it work, and answer your questions. And at the end, we are going to let you know more details about IVEMSA, what do we do, and how we can help in case you guys have additional questions. So in general, we are going to walk you through all these steps that I believe at this point and right now are extremely interesting. As I mentioned, I like to start with sharing what are many companies telling to us. IVEMSA has a role of helping companies to set up business in Mexico. So we have been discussing with different companies during the last 6 months, and the main concern that companies have right now, it's the trade war and the political tension between the U.S. and China. As you can imagine, this topic you have been seeing on the news and the media almost daily, and really companies are asking in the next couple of years, the next months, what's going to happen. They are looking for stability. They have a lot of interest on understanding the new USMCA, the free trade agreement between Mexico, the US, and Canada, and see how can they benefit from that. At this point, this agreement, it's already in place, and for the next 6 years, it will continue to operate. Companies are looking as well to diversify their supply chain, to have less dependency from a specific region, let's say China. So they are looking to have different sources, different countries that can work as a supply chain alternative for them. They are looking as well to operate in a place that will have positive trade relationship with different countries. They're looking for a competitive cost and good logistics and infrastructure. Definitely looking for a quick and safe startup for their business, which the shelter option, it's definitely a very good option and very good, especially because it's quick and safe option to set up shop in Mexico. And as well, they are looking for intellectual property. Those main points that I just discussed are the main concerns and the reasons why manufacturers are looking to possibly set up shop in Mexico or somewhere else. So focusing in Mexico, that's our area of expertise. These are the 5 reasons why Mexico is an ideal manufacturing location. Talent and human capital, it's available. Definitely without this, there's not much that you can really do on manufacturing. Proximity and location, we will discuss this in detail and give you our highlights. Competitive manufacturing costs and operating costs. Access to 14 different free trade agreements with over 50 countries, which it's the country, actually one of the countries with the largest amount of free trade agreements. The most important ones, of course, is the new USMCA with the US and Canada, and the agreement with the European Union. And finally, but not least, the IMMEX program. The IMMEX program, it's a great tool that companies can use to minimize their tax impact when operating in Mexico. I will give you all the details of the IMMEX program and the benefits and how does this program works. So now, moving on to human capital. Mexico generates more than 115,000 engineers per year. This is the amount of engineers in average that are being formed in Mexican universities. But it's not only engineers. We also have engineering level and technical level talent that has experience in medical devices, high-end electronics, the automotive industry, aerospace, metalwork industries, plastics, IT, you name it. So there is a very interesting pool of workforce that it's that has experience in manufacturing. Actually, manufacturing accounts for one of the industries that generate more jobs in Mexico. There's more than 2,500 higher education institutions in the country, and the work shift in Mexico per week it's 48 hours, which it's not that it's extremely important. Many it's not that known. It's easy to assume that the work shift in Mexico will be 45 hours. The reality is that we have 48 hours, and this we have been seeing with our customers that this has been it's a great positive impact for your production. So at this point, proximity and location, continuing with the advantages of Mexico's proximity. When a company decided to set up manufacturing, especially for supply the North American market, there's almost two countries that are going to be in the top three of the final decision before you make it. It's going to be China versus Mexico. Some of the key differences and proximity and location, it's traveling. Traveling from the US to China will represent a 12-hour flight minimum. Traveling to Mexico, it's going to be 3 to 4 hours flight, or possibly a 3 to 4 hour drive if you live somewhere near the border. Could be less, could be an hour, could be even less than an hour. There are some areas of the US and the Mexico border that are extremely integrated, and that in an hour you can be in the other side at your facility pretty much running production. That's a huge advantage. Supervision, same thing, traveling across the globe for China and basically traveling across the border from Mexico. So we have been seeing that companies that have presence in both countries are extremely happy with how easy it is to travel in and out of Mexico. The arrival of your finished goods, let's say to the west coast of the United States, or to the United States to a port, it's going to take around 3 weeks, nearly. From Mexico, it will take from 4 to 8 hours if you are located in a border city doing manufacturing. Your products will cross the border on the same day and will arrive to your warehouse on the US side on the same day. That's also very helpful. The cost of shipping from China, typically it's 3 times more expensive than from Mexico. The time difference, another very important fact. It's 12 hours difference in China comparing with the US, and it's going to be a maximum of 3 hours difference between the US and Mexico, possibly being in the same time zone. If you are located in the West Coast, and let's say you are in the West Coast of Mexico, it's going to be just an hour difference. If you are in the West Coast in the US, in the West Coast in Mexico, it's going to be the same time zone. So finally, the trade situation right now between the US and Mexico, it's very stable, and between the US and China, it's very unstable. So that's another important fact to take in consideration. So here on this map, continuing with the proximity and location, we can see that shipping from Mexico to the US is very convenient. If you are shipping, let's say you are located in the city of Tijuana and you are shipping to Southern California, your products will cross the border in the same day, can even arrive to the LA area on the same day if you are shipping during the morning. If you are shipping to the East Coast, worst case scenario, it's going to be 4 to 5 days to your products to arrive to the West Coast. So as you can see, proximity, it's extremely convenient. You can definitely cut a lot of shipping time comparing from shipping to other overseas locations. And traveling in and out is going to be extremely easy. This allows you to do door-to-door deliveries within hours, depending on where are you located. And production and operational supervision, it's going to be a lot easier. You will have more control of your quality. And if any action needs to be taken right away, it's a lot easier to react with when you have a manufacturing plant in Mexico. Okay, now moving to the competitive production cost. Okay, this is extremely, extremely important. As I already mentioned, in Mexico, we have 48-hour shifts versus 40-hour shifts in the US. So we have an extra 8 hours without you need to pay overtime. The direct labor in Mexico for an entry-level manufacturing employee right now, fully burdened, it's $3.90. When I say fully burdened, I'm including payroll taxes, state and federal. I'm including mandatory benefits in Mexico, and I'm including as well market benefits in Mexico. So this $3.90 per hour fully burdened, it's going to be a competitive salary. In the US, the average, it's around 21.50. So basically, if we do this exercise and we compare a headcount of 100 employees making these salaries, in Mexico, this is going to be the yearly labor cost. In the US, this is going to be your yearly labor cost. So at the end, just with 100 employees, considering that all of them are manufacturing experience entry level, not an employee super experienced or highly skilled, just entry level, but with some background in manufacturing, you're basically going to save more than $4 million just on salaries. Remember, here we are only considering salaries. So if we go to 200 employees, you will see that the savings will go all over to more than $8 million just on salaries on a yearly basis. So this is why companies are considering Mexico, because this competitive cost and salaries plus the proximity and location, it makes it simply the best location for manufacturing. If your finished market, it's going to be the USMCA market, US, Canada, or even Mexico. This is extremely competitive. So now moving on to the average annual cost for your plant. Let's assume you have a 50,000 square foot building, Class A facility, with a head count of 100. In our experience, your total annual operating costs, of course, considering salaries, are going to be just above $2 million, $2,100,000. So if we divided this by the hourly volume of hours that you can work, just considering the 48 hours, your annual operating hourly rate is going to be $8.41, which in our experience, it is also very competitive. So again, this is a 50,000 square foot facility, like manufacturing. I mean, there's not a lot of equipment, not a lot of capital equipment, just mainly assembly and workstations. So this could change based on your company, on your industry, but definitely I'm sure it will give you a good idea about what's the potential for Mexico. So now the final point of the 5 that we discussed as the main advantages of Mexico, it's the IMMEX program. So what is the IMMEX program? The IMMEX program, it's or also known as Maquiladora program, started in Mexico in the 60s. This program was created to attract foreign companies to the country. The IMMEX program offers a favorable tax benefit to companies that manufacture in Mexico. And this program, when you combine it with the VAT certification, allows foreign manufacturers to import temporary raw materials, equipment, and components without paying VAT tax in Mexico. So there is the condition that 100% of all your finished goods made in Mexico will be re-exported with a Mexican government mandated timeframe. So you are temporarily importing equipment and materials, putting together, making a finished good, doing your manufacturing process or your process, and all those finished goods manufactured in Mexico will be re-exported out of the country. Since those products are not going to be sold in the Mexican market, you can avoid the payment of the VAT tax in Mexico, which actually The VAT tax in Mexico is 16%, 1/6, so you can avoid that on every temporary import that you do. So basically, you are using and you're generating jobs in Mexico, and you're taking advantage of the competitive labor costs in Mexico to do manufacturing in the country. Okay, so very quickly, this is the total amount of IMMEX companies throughout Mexico. There's more than 5,000 IMMEX companies in Mexico doing manufacturing. The total jobs that these companies generate for the country, it's 2,746,000 jobs in the country. So it's this industry, IMMEX companies, it's one of the key players in the industry. It's one of the main job generation industries in Mexico. The states that have the larger presence of IMMEX companies is Baja California, with more than 900 companies, the state of Chihuahua with more than 500 companies, the state of Nuevo León, more than 600. And as you can see, these states, Baja, Sonora, Chihuahua, Nuevo León, Coahuila, concentrate the larger amount of IMMEX companies. Why? Because they have the advantage of being near the US-Mexico border, and they have the ability that we already discussed, proximity location and being able to ship your products to the US and getting them into the US on the same day. There is also a very interesting cluster in central Mexico that has an automotive location, but here you can find states such as Querétaro, such as Guanajuato, such as Jalisco, that actually Jalisco has a very strong IT and electronics industry, high-end electronics, that definitely you will find interesting capabilities. It's definitely another interesting hub to be located in Mexico, and where there's also a lot of business opportunities. So now, if you said, okay, it's interesting, what are my options? How can I set up a business in Mexico? You have basically 4 options. Every option has different levels of risk and liabilities. Contract manufacturing, option number 1, it's the fastest. It's basically the safest. You just need to find a company in Mexico that can build products for you, that can match the quality that you need, the pricing that you're looking for, and that can be reliable. So that's an option. In our experience, the majority of the companies, they don't want to just give up on manufacturing, since that's their core business. So if contract manufacturing is not the best option for you, there is another option that it's extremely reliable, extremely safe. There's no risk and liabilities because you are going to be operating under a shelter company permits and licenses. That's the shelter program. Basically, you set up your business, you make all the decisions, you lease a building through the shelter provider, and you are going to be using the shelter company's permits, licenses to do business. You don't need to incorporate a company. That's why there is no risk, exposure, or liability for you. The other option here, there's more risk and liabilities, because it's basically setting up a company. The shelter will help you to set up a subsidiary under your name. It's going to be your subsidiary. Here you do create and incorporate a Mexican company, but the shelter is going to be responsible to helping you with all the administrative compliance and management activities, so you can concentrate on your core business. But remember, on this option, shelter program, under the shelter partner, you don't create an entity, you're operating under the shelter licenses. This option, the wholly owned subsidiary, you do incorporate and create a company with the support of the shelter. And the last option, it's a wholly owned subsidiary without a shelter partner. So basically, you are by yourself, you incorporate, you hire directly your workers, you are responsible for compliance, for labor compliance, for finance, for accounting, and you need to make sure that you are in full compliance with the Mexican authorities, especially on HR, especially on trade compliance, because remember, it's not that easy to get your IMMEX program, and especially it's not that easy to keep it in good shape. Okay, so now going deeper into the shelter model and how it works. Okay, the shelter model, it's a program approved by the Mexican federal government, which allows a foreign entity to have an operation in Mexico through a third-party legal entity. The shelter is going to be the third-party legal entity. The Mexican legal entity, it's going to be a subsidiary of the shelter. The shelter, it's actually the one that owns that subsidiary, not the foreign company. That's why you don't need to incorporate, and that's why you are not exposed to the risk and liability. So basically, the shelter legally represents a company in Mexico with the Mexican authorities. It's going to absorb all the risk liabilities for the activities performed. The Mexican subsidiary that belongs to the shelter is going to sign a maquila contract with the foreign company, which will specify the product services that the Mexican company will provide to the foreign company. Okay, so the shelter subsidiary already have IMMEX program and VAT certification. So since day one, you will not pay the VAT on your temporary importations under this model. You are going to have full control over your operation. You're going to decide which building you want to lease, which workers do you want to hire. You are responsible for capital equipment, for doing all the installation, all the training. Basically, you concentrate in your operation while the shelter help you with all the permitting, setting up, compliance, and administrative, and also recruiting. Again, your equipment, raw materials, machinery will be imported under the shelter's IMMEX program. And the shelter, it's going to be a facilitator, and it's going to be responsible for all the regulatory compliance and keeping up to date all aspects of the Mexico operation. Why you should consider a shelter? What are the advantages? It's the fastest way to set up shop in Mexico, and you are reducing the learning curve. You are minimizing the mistakes, and it's basically, as I said, the fastest way to get up and running. You can be up and running in 3 to 4 months average. It's the safest. There's no exposure for the company. There's no legal, labor, fiscal, or trade compliant exposure. The shelter will be responsible for compliance in this department, and you are going to be operating under the shelter subsidiary. There's savings because a shelter, normally it's a group that has not just 1 or 2 companies, have an interesting critical mass, 20, 30, 40 companies your size or even larger, that has a very interesting purchasing power. Basically, if you need transportation services, some suppliers, if you need to buy some software, the shelter will be very well connected and will be getting you the best pricing for those services. Again, all control, it's yours. You run the facility, you run that operation. You decide on site selection, where do you want to set up, which city, which building, which vendors do you want it to work with, which materials do you want to purchase, salaries, production setup, all that, it's going to be your responsibility. Additional savings with software that the shelter already have, since they are already managing other operations. They already have some pieces that you can just plug and play, that it will not cost you additional money because the shelter already have it. At the end, the shelter will give you peace of mind so you can concentrate in your core business. And very, very important, IMMEX program plus VAT certification. That means that since your first import, you will not pay VAT when you are bringing your equipment and materials into Mexico. You can imagine, without this, paying 16% of the value of your goods at Mexican customs will be, especially if you are intensive in capital, it just doesn't make sense. It's a lot of money. So with this benefit that the shelter already has, you are going to save a lot of money. So how does it work? How does the average operation looks? So you are going to be responsible for all the activities that are in the light blue boxes: sales, customer service, manufacturing, maintenance, quality, scheduling for production, purchasing of direct materials, inventory. All that, it's going to be your responsibility. The shelter is going to be responsible for the general administration, for human resources, environmental compliance, health and safety compliance, running the payroll, recruiting, hiring for the positions that you need, any labor matter, any union matter, all the finance, taxes, import, export, customs. Actually, the shelter is going to assign personnel to your operation. Normally, a shelter assigns uh, two accountants with one for payroll, one for the general accounting, an HR person or two, depending on your size, that are going to be doing all the compliance and all the recruiting that you need, and also making sure that your employees are happy. And import-export, that person is going to be in communication with the headquarters, with your local operation, doing all the paperwork needed to move your products north, south. So basically, you don't need to hire this personnel in Mexico. By paying the shelter fee, the shelter will assign this personnel to you and will be dedicated to your operation. So ahead we will discuss the shelter fee. So how does it work? How does it look in if we try to put it as simple as possible in the chart? You are a foreign company, let's say in the US. You have clients that are going to send you a sales PO. So basically all your sales are going to be done outside of Mexico. Mexico is going to be a cost center, not a profit center. Then headquarters in the beginning during the setup, they're going to send equipment, tooling, machinery, raw materials. They're going to send, once you are ready to manufacture under shelter, the headquarters is going to send materials, it's going to send the POs. The Mexican operation, it's going to make all the manufacturing. Remember, this is your operation under shelter. You can have suppliers either in the US side or Mexico side that can ship directly to the Mexican operation, or they can send directly to the foreign company and then you will send them to Mexico. It's up to you. But once you have finished goods manufactured in Mexico, you can ship either directly to your client in the US, you can either ship directly to your warehouse or to your headquarters in the US, or you can basically ship to your customers. If you have IMMEX customers in Mexico, you can ship directly to them. This is how you close the loop of your temporary imports once you ship to your products outside of Mexico or directly to your customers in Mexico through a virtual transfer. That's how it's called, that operation. By doing that, you will be in full compliance in Mexico, okay? So all your transactions, salaries, the benefits, the rent for the building, the utilities, duties, if there's any on your imports, taxes, all those expenses are going to be a pass-through cost. What does that mean? You are going to pay those through the shelter. You're basically going to send funds to the shelter. And once you approve the shelter to pay your expenses, the shelter will be your accounts payable department in Mexico and will pay all your transactions, all your salaries, will pay all your expenses. The shelter fee. How does the shelter fee works? Normally, when you are negotiating with the shelter for their services, you will find a chart that is going to be very similar to this one. So the shelter charges you based on your head count. For example, if you have 25 employees at the beginning, you're going to multiply 25 employees by 48 hours because all your 25 employees are going to work 48 hours that week, and you are going to get a total of 1,200 hours for that week. The shelter, quote, it's going to have a specific hourly rate for this bracket that, let's say that it's going to be $1.35. So you're going to multiply 1,200 times $1.35 because that's the hourly rate for this bracket, and that's going to be your weekly shelter fee. If you grow into the next bracket, let's say that you grow to 50, it's the same process, multiply 50 times 48, and then the hourly rate, it's going to be more competitive. Maybe it's going to be $1.30 ballpark, to give you a ballpark number. Every time you jump into the next bracket, the shelter will give you a more competitive hourly rate for your operation. And this is basically how you estimate the shelter fee. The only reason why we are not showing numbers here, it's because every project it's different. Every project has different needs. Every project requests more attention, more time than others, and that's basically how a shelter will estimate the fee. They will see how many resources, time, workers they need to assign to this operation so they can give you a price. Okay, so this is a very simple four-phase process and general do's and don'ts. If you are considering to evaluate Mexico and you are on phase one, the feasibility review, we recommend you to do a very deep analysis of the location, what does your project requires. We really invite you to engage with the shelter company, evaluate if shelter is the best option for you or maybe a standalone. We invite you to do a detailed RFI, a detailed pro forma of salaries. Basically, a pro forma of salaries or costs, that's something that a shelter can help you with. You just need to tell them what kind of workers do you need, what kind of product are you planning to build in Mexico, and a shelter can help you with a forecast of your salaries based on your labor. Also, a shelter can help you with the duty impact analysis. They can tell you before you actually plan to send any raw materials or equipment, if your materials or equipment are going to be paying or subject to any duty. So there's a lot of analysis information that a shelter can help you to do since phase one. If everything makes sense, you know, numbers looks good and you want to move forward to phase two, which is the site selection, that's when a shelter helps you with recommendations on buildings, on locations. They will give you a tour. They will take you to different buildings, to different cities, and then they will help you to negotiate with the landlord, on, of course, on your behalf, trying to get you the best deal. Keep in mind that a shelter already has multiple companies that already went through this route. They are experts on helping you with this, so they will have and add a lot of value on the real estate negotiation. Phase three, which is the program implementation, basically here a shelter is going to help you to make a timeline of the milestones for your project. There's going to be a lot of communication between the startup team from the shelter and the startup team from your company. And every week or daily, there's going to be communication about progress, what's next, what needs to be done, and what needs to be done to move forward. You need to assign a team that is going to be interacting with the shelter team. And at this stage, you also need to identify strategic sourcing and supply chain resources, either in Mexico or in the US or in Asia, if you're going to continue bringing those products into Mexico. Phase four, basically, it's the ongoing operations, the shelter, and you are fully integrated. You are concentrated in manufacturing, and the shelter is concentrated in keeping you in full compliance, giving you the labor that you need, and guiding you with any tax, administrative, or trade compliance situation and operation. Okay, so now going in to more information about IVEMSA, who we are, how we can help. We have been in business for the past 38 years. We are a shelter operator that is located in the northwest of Mexico, but we also have presence in central Mexico. We have access to, you know, to federal, state government, to private sector leaders. We are extremely well connected in Mexico. This is very important to conduct business. We have helped over 150 companies in the last 38 years, 150 companies to set up business in Mexico. Many of them has been with us for more than 15 years as our customer retention rate. Many of them have decided to graduate, which is very normal. Our founder, senior staff are all very active in the day-to-day business. Actually, there's going to be two teams. It's going to be the executive team that basically works for you in Mexico and for your operation. And at the same time, there's going to be also an operations team that is going to be doing all the day-to-day transactions. our main goal is to give you the peace of mind so you can concentrate in your core business, your core competence when you are operating in Mexico, and leave the rest to us. With us, there's extremely interesting economy of scales that will give you the best deal possible and the most savings possible while operating in Mexico. We are very transparent and honest. This is extremely important. We guarantee to our customers that when they are ready to transfer from our shelter to a standalone or to their own subsidiary, we will help them to do that transition. Actually, we are well known for helping our customers to transfer their operation from our shelter to their own operation. It's normal that after a couple of years under the shelter, if you decided to transfer to your own subsidiary, you can do that. The shelter, it's not a permanent solution. You need to be or can be under shelter for as long as you want. But if at some point you want to graduate or phase out of the shelter umbrella, that's something that you can do. And that's something that we are very straightforward all the time and that we always have in our contracts. Mexico compliance system. Basically, we have all the systems in place that you need to do business. So that will save you money and time. You will have with us all control. Again, we emphasize a lot of control because this is very important under our shelter. You will have the option to decide on where do you want to set up, which city, which building, which vendors do you want to work with, salaries. It's your operation. It's a very safe model. As we already discussed, you don't have exposure in Mexico, legal, labor, fiscal. It's going to be the shelter responsibility. IVEMSA will be responsible for that because you are using our IMMEX program in our licenses. We are very flexible. We work with companies that have 2 employees up to companies that have a couple thousand employees. So we have been very successful in adjusting our business for smaller operations, medium-sized operations, and larger operations. So there's not going to be another company like us that can do all that adjustability to support our customers' needs. Finally, we do have presence all over the northwest of Mexico and as well in central Mexico. We know Mexico very well. We can help you to set up shop anywhere you want. We have been in this business for a long, long time, and we have helped a lot of companies that continue doing business with us to set up shop. And we have seen how companies started with 10 employees and now they have 300, 400, 500, and they have been very successful in Mexico. So finally, we do business, we offer a methodology to set up shop in Mexico in the fastest and safest way possible. The majority of our customers are in the aerospace industry, automotive industry, IT, medical devices, and electronics. Why? Because we have noticed that companies that are in those industries are extremely oriented to full compliance, and they cannot run the risk of setting up an operation and having compliance issues in a new country. That's why they see a lot of value in IVEMSA. They see a lot of value in the shelter partner, and they have complex manufacturing processes that really takes a lot of time, a lot of engineering, and a lot of skill set. So they wanted to concentrate in their core business and not in the Mexico accounting or the Mexico HR compliance. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your time. And now I am going to open the session to, if anybody wants to throw questions, I will be able to read them. Okay. Okay, I have a question from Maite Cadena. What do you mean by favorable tax benefits to companies that manufacture in Mexico? Okay, what I mean with favorable tax benefits to companies that manufacture in Mexico, it's basically 2 things. With the IMMEX program, you will be able to exempt the payment of the VAT tax on your temporary imports. Remember, only on your temporary imports. That's one benefit of the IMMEX program. Another benefit is that since the companies are doing business under in Mexico under the IMMEX program, since they don't sell their products in Mexico, they are basically a cost center for companies, mainly in the United States. That their taxation is going to be different than an average Mexican company. They're going to be taxation that will allow them to have a more attractive tax payment for their income tax. Remember, the income tax, all the incomes are going to be generated abroad, not in Mexico. So the way that these companies are going to be taxated, this operation is going to be with a transfer price analysis or a safe harbor methodology, which once you do the math, it will give you a more attractive income tax payment in Mexico. Okay, I have a question from John. What is your experience with moving equipment from Asia to Mexico? So John, basically what we do, it's you'll need to tell us, hey, this is the equipment, this is the characteristics that I am going to be, this is the equipment that I'm going to be moving from Asia. This is the machinery, this is the materials, right? So once you give us all the details, we're going to do several things. We can do all the paperwork needed to import that equipment into Mexico. We can as well let you know if some of that equipment is going to be paying duties, how much in advance. We can let you know a lot of information, and we can classify your equipment. So once we have them at the border, we can import it faster, and it will be very smooth operation. As well, if you need, or if you need more into transportation or logistics companies, we can also connect you with companies that can help you with the rigging or with moving that equipment from site to Mexico. Also, if needed, if for some reason you need special installation or rigging companies to do the setup in Mexico, we can also help you with that. We're basically a facilitator. Just tell us what you need, and we will help you. We will get the contacts for you. Again, you need to be involved because it's your equipment, it's your operation, you're the expert. But we will take care of all import. We will do introductions on logistics or rigging companies if that's what you need. I have another question here from Philip. It says, early in the presentation, you mentioned an average entry-level direct labor rate of $3.90 per hour. How does this average varies from region to region, from a border area away, from an area away from the border? That's a very good question, Philip. And you're right, the $3.90 salary per hour is going to be for a, let's say a city like Tijuana, city like Monterrey, industrial city, maybe one of the most expensive areas in Mexico. Great location, but again, since it's a very mature city with a lot of manufacturers already doing business there, salaries are more competitive in cities like Tijuana, cities like Monterrey, cities like Juarez. If you go to central Mexico, probably you will see a drop from 10 to maybe 15%, even in the state of Baja. If instead of Tijuana, you set up shop in the city of Mexicali, you will see this $3.90 go down maybe a 10, 15, possibly 20%. If you go to a smaller region, smaller town with not as congested as the larger cities, you might see this number go down possibly a 30%, right? So what we did for this exercise is to give you a competitive salary in a mature industrialized city, so you can have this as a reference, which will be on the higher or above average. We didn't want it to give you the lowest, cheapest option, so you don't get a surprise later in the future. But you can, but it's important to clarify this. The $3.90 per hour, it's going to be more on the higher end, but it's going to make you competitive in a large industrialized city in Mexico. Okay. Hector, is this being recorded? My team, yeah, we are recording this. We are going to send a link through YouTube so you guys can have access to the webinar, and we will share it with all the participants. I have a question from John. Does IVEMSA have resources to find plant manager, production supervisors? Can these people travel to the US? Yes, John. With IVEMSA, you just simply need to let us know what talent do you need, either a plant manager, manufacturing leader, engineering with XYZ skill set and years experience. We will get it for you. We will narrow down the list of candidates. We will give it to you. You will decide which one do you want to hire. And normally, guys in this position are bilingual. They will speak English like myself, or even better. They will be able to have a travel visa to the States, and they can spend as many time needed for training in the US. This is very common that your plant manager and your first engineers travel to the States, to your plant, get a training over there, and then they come back to Mexico and they will be responsible for the training for the Mexico plant. This is very common. Another option is for you to come to Mexico, send your expertise team to the Mexico plant and do some training on site. So those options are the most common in IMMEX companies and in the shelter. So remember, tell us what you need. We have other customers that for all of them, we have get great plant managers, and we can definitely help you with that. There's another question from Maite. What are the steps for a company to incorporate and open a bank account in Mexico? How is it for you to help with that? Well, opening bank accounts in Mexico will depend on the model. If you operate under the shelter, the bank accounts already exist, are already in place, because as I said, other companies are already doing business through the shelter. If you want the shelter to create a subsidiary for you, it's going to be a new subsidiary. The shelter will create it from scratch for you, and you will continue getting all the permits, including bank accounts, one by one from scratch. Once you have the company created, then with that new company that you created are going to the bank and basically requesting a new bank account, and at the same time registering the company with the SAT, which is the Mexican IRS, and at the same time this company is going to apply for leasing the building, and this new company is going to apply for obtaining the IMMEX program. But once you create this company, the shelter will be responsible to going to the bank that you selected, that you want to work with, and making sure that your files, your permit for getting this bank accounts are approved and obtained. Okay, so I think that was the last question. Thank you guys for joining me today.